Hi, Bill here with 30 Minute Woodshop. Thanks for joining. Today, I want to show you how to make a quick and easy kitchen step, okay? If you have high cabinets like we do, I have 42 inches. You can't reach the top. My wife is 5'9". There's no way she's getting up there. Heck, I'm 6 foot and I can't reach the top of the cabinets. So having a step in the kitchen that you can easily access and move around is super important. Now, I've been using this one for a long time. Originally, I built it for my son when he was about 3, 4, 5, so he could jump up, brush his teeth at the bathroom sink. It's nice and heavy oak, so it's very stable for a young boy to jump on, jump off. And believe me, he jumped on and off of it. So, but the problem I have with this is it's only 7-inch steps. So these are very narrow, not quite as safe as they could be. So I'm going to look for maybe 9.5, 10-inch steps here. Something wide enough to get almost all your foot on, if not the whole thing, which should be much safer and easier to do. I also want to make it a little bit lighter for my wife to carry around the kitchen. This thing's fairly heavy because it's solid oak. It's nicely balanced, but still lugging this thing around, it's kind of a pain. So I'm going to be using pine, which should cut the weight by about 30%. Be just as strong, might not be quite as pretty because we're going to paint it, but the paint will match the rest of our cabinetry, which is all white with granite, so it'll work out pretty good. If you want to make this, all right, check out my blog, all right, 30minutewoodshop.com, or click the link, hit more, and click the link down there, take you to that, and you'll find the drawing for it, the dimension sketch. On that note, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Hit like and subscribe right now. That helps my channel out immensely. And hey folks, let's start making. Okay, I've marked my two 12-inch pieces right and left. One thing I should mention, I've made these pieces about 1/8 of an inch long. That way I can stack them and then make a final cut to make them exactly the same height, which is actually pretty critical for something like this. The parts need to be identical. So let's make some more noise. Okay, you kind of get a quick look at how this is starting to come together. We'll have to glue the short step side to the upper step side. Now, the reason I'm putting these grained vertically is because that's the highest strength ratio. Wood in compression this direction is extremely strong, so I don't have to worry about anything. To get these two pieces bonded together, it's going to be a butt joint. So in that butt joint, I'm actually going to put a couple of biscuits to make sure that we have a strong joint here. So let's go to the bench, pop in some biscuits. Well, I'm moving on to this biscuit joiner. This is a Porter Cable biscuit joiner or plate joiner. Had this forever, love it. It's one of those tools that you don't need every day, but when you do, you want to have it. I'm using number 20 biscuits. These are 2 1/4 inch long. So what I've done here is I've marked my pieces. Let's see. And I put 2 biscuits in each one. Now, a couple things. I marked the center of the biscuits. I also put another mark on there to make sure I get these in the correct spot. So this one goes here and the other one goes there. So want to make sure we get these things put together correctly. Anyway, so it's pretty simple. All we're going to do now is make some noise. Don't forget your safety gear. And it's that fast. So you can see the biscuits fit right in there. We'll glue these things in. marry everything up, glue it and clamp it, and it can stay overnight. So on to gluing. Glue up as easy as 1, 2, 3. You can kind of see here where I've marked it. I put the V here so that I know right from left, left from right. These should be marked exactly the same because I measured everything, but just in case they aren't, better to put a mark there. So all I'm going to do is drop some glue in these slots. And also, too, you may see there's a small mark here. That's just for the width to keep the glue contained to one spot here. It saves cleanup later on. So you do have to put it into both sides. This is one joint you don't want to starve with glue. Yep, I want to get it over here too. Little bit of a rub. Make sure that the bottom is identical, flush. This is where you're going to be sitting on it. You don't want it the whole thing rocking around. We'll put a clamp on it. Okay. There we go. Nice and flat now. Now let's wipe the glue off and let her sit for a while. Let it sit for 24 hours and we'll be back. Okay, while we're waiting for the sides to dry, I'm going to cut out the treads. So what I've done here is I actually marked this out, and I've missed these knots because I'm going to be drawing or plowing a dado through here, and I don't want the dado to go through a knot. Making dados makes this substantially stronger, makes more of a monolithic joint, so it's going to be really good. But let's cut some wood. All right, by double stacking this and cut them at the same time, I know I have identical pieces here, so I'm good to go. Now we have to go set the dado on the table saw and cut some slots in here. My table saw is set up. I've used these brass setup blocks. These things are invaluable. If you don't have a set, folks, I would get a set. There's a link in the bottom. Sets this thing up. I set up to 5/16 of an inch. Kind of split the difference between 1/4 and 3/8. 3/8 is halfway through this. And I wanted a little more meat on top, even though my overhang is only an inch. You know, so one thing I really like about these, so I set a Freud dado set together here. And one thing I say, this is why I really like these. I'll tell you what, that thing is just absolutely, Freud is like great. Oh, when I can't go through. So, nice and tight. Love these things every time. So, I was unsuccessful in completely missing all the knots in the wood, unfortunately. So, that's another reason for only going 5/16. Give me a little more meat. But let's cut some dados and make some noise. All right, I've got the sides out of the clamps. I'm doing a dry fit here just to test everything, and it's working out really, really well. You can see this is why I like using my Freud dado. Matter of fact, I swapped out my Freud dado for a Freud 10-inch blade on my saw. But let me say, tight, these things work perfectly every time. I love it. You can kind of see this is all just no glue, nothing. It's all held together because of the friction in the joints. I did put in these bracing, so just stuffed them in here to kind of like see where I want them. And you can see this is a really nicely balanced, nice and light, nicely balanced. So we're good to go there. So next couple things we got to do. I got to do some routing on these edges because they're still kind of sharp. I want to get those down because this is going to be used very frequently. This is a pickup point, so a touch point. So I want to make sure this gets routed under here, and same under here, on these edges, because people will be picking this up regularly, moving it. Then I have to go ahead and do some sanding. And then after that, it's gluing and finishing, so we're pretty close. Let's go over to the router table. And this is how fast you can do these things with the right tools. This is why 30-minute wood chop works for me. So, everything's rounded off. Let's start doing some sanding. Now, if you follow me at all, you know that sanding is the bane of my existence, and I usually only use 220 grit. This, however, is some pretty rough pine. So I'm going to start with 120 and then go to 220, and then we're ready for assembly. So let's make some noise. Let's start some assembly work. So what I've done here, a couple things. I've managed to decide which is going to be the inside, which is the outside. In doing that, I've also put some marks here just so that when I put in my cross braces, I know about where they're going to go so I can set this whole thing up. Now, what I want to do is I want to position and glue in the cross braces first because they're really tight. These are exact. So I'm going to put these, glue them and put them in place, and glue them just enough so that I can adjust them. Throw a little glue on the ends. Actually, more than a little glue because I don't want this thing coming apart. I'll get it roughly positioned. There's going to be some sliding around. Which is going to be okay. So I just want to get it in the spot I want it at so I can get it positioned. Get it about there. just want to snug it up so it's kind of where it needs to be. That way I can get the next one in. I get it snugged up so it's pretty much where I think I want it to be. And then I can put some glue on this, do the second one, and then once I get the treads in, everything will be held together by the treads. But this is a pretty tight fit, so I'm trying to do it first. And there we go. Okay, so that's just enough to get it lined up. I'm not looking for anything more than that at this point. Now I got to do all the rest of the gluing. So glue on top, glue across here, glue in the dados, drop it on, and we'll be good. So I'll be back after I finish that up. Finish time. So far it's turned out really well. Only thing I don't like is I didn't get this tread seated fully right here, so there's a tiny little gap. Won't be a problem because we're all glued in down here anyway, so it's all fully supported twice over. So I was going to paint this, but my cousin decided she wanted one, so actually I'm going to give this to her, and I'm going to start with staining it, then I'm going to varnish it. It's going to kind of freak some people out because I'm not going to raise the grain on this, but I don't want the grain raised. What I want is a little bit of a texture here so that when you step on it, you're sliding all over the place. So I'm going to put some, this is Minwax Golden Pecan on it just to give it some color. And then I'm going to come back with a varnish and put 2 coats of varnish on it, and I'm not going to sand the tops of these in between. So they'll be kind of rough and a bunch of little nubs, but it's way easier if you step on this. You know, you're in your kitchen, wearing your socks, you step on a varnished surface, all right? So it'll be a little texture, a little bit easier to step on, a little less chance of sliding off of it. So I'm going to start applying some finish here, just so you can kind of see what it's going to look like. So you can see how that's really I like this particular Golden Pecan. It's a pretty nice finish. So that's how it's going to end up looking. And I'm going to be using a satin polyurethane on top of it. So let me finish this up and I'll be back. First coat of poly is on. With a few more strokes anyway. We'll wait a couple hours for it to dry up before I put on the second coat. And then we can call this project finished. Be back in a little while. Well, this project went really well. Absolutely super fast, super easy. You know, it's one of those kind of projects you can knock together in literally an hour, including painting and varnishing and all that kind of good stuff. There's not much to it. All I did is took a 1 by 10, so it's 9.5 inches. Took a 1 by 10, chopped it into 2 pieces that are 16 inches long, 2 pieces that are 12, and 2 pieces that are 6. Glued it all together, threw in 2 pieces, one here and here, for cross strength. All right, those are 3 to 4 inches thick or wide. So go ahead and make sure you put those in. I used a dado, all right? I used a Freud dado. Matter of fact, you can check it out in the links in the bottom. I highly recommend that. If you're gonna build this project, I would use dados. Now you could use a Kreg jig and screw the heck out of this thing. That works too, all right? That's be pretty strong, especially if you're putting in these cross pieces. Make sure you put these cross pieces in and you put 2 to 3 screws in each one of them. You definitely want this thing to be strong and held together. That's why I went with the dados. Put it together with dados and this thing is rock solid. So go down to the bottom, hit more. You'll find a couple things. A list of the tools and things that I use, things that I find useful. Okay, you may find that interesting and you can do some exploring down there. You'll also find a link to my blog. If you want, click on that and then that'll get you a set of dimension sketches so you can build this really easily. All right, real straightforward, give you a set of dimension sketches, download those and have some fun. By the way, if you do make this, do me a favor, let me know in the comments because I'd love to see what you're making. All right, so explore those links, explore my blog, and hey, I hope you got something out of this. Like I said, I had a lot of fun. If you did get something out of this, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe. Really help my channel out. And well, until next time, folks, good making.